Hi, Sean here from the Trusted Agent Podcast, and thank you for joining us on today's show, where each week we talk to experts both inside the industry and outside the real estate industry to gain their unique perspectives on what they believe real estate agents can do to build their credibility, efficiencies, and connections with others. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Rezo, Real Estate Sales Online, who's absolutely revolutionizing how real estate agents deal with prospective buyers and vendors. Their online platform that manages the offers and acceptance process is simple, easy to use, giving time back to the agents so they can do what they do best. All right, so stick with me and let's see who today's guest on the show is. G'day everyone, and today we're joined with Lindsey Burne here, who's the sales manager for LJ Hooker Dixon and also the director for LJ Hooker Dixon and LJ Hooker Commercial in Canberra. And I'm so pleased to have Lindsey on board. He's been a fundamental contact for me in the last 5.5 years as I've gotten to understand the real estate industry as well. I should also mention he's a member of the LJ Hooker Franchise Owners Council. And welcome today, Lindsey. I'm glad you could join us.
G'day, Sean. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
No worries at all. Now, I know who you are, and a lot of people in the industry know who you are and the great work you've done, in particular if they're in the Canberra region, which is where you're located. But for those people that aren't aware of you, could you just give us a bit of a rundown in your experience in the industry and some of your most recent challenge today?
Sure. So I've been in real estate with one brand for about 19 years now. I've done everything. I guess I've picked up the phone. I've been a PA. I've been a salesperson. I've been a property manager, a team leader, a business owner. I now represent business owners nationally as well. So a little bit of everything. A lot of experience over many years.
Yeah, and I think when we first met, you're the head of property management for the, as I affectionately call them, the LJ Hooker Canberra 9 offices. And the one thing that always stood out for me is one of our first meetings is you didn't pull any punches. You're pretty direct, and you're pretty confident in a quiet confidence without ego, which I really appreciated. And you told me exactly as it was, but and I do appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that, Sean.
It's all right. It's all right. And but what stood out for me is that all right, well, here's someone who's actually giving me a chance and giving me the feedback, because one of the things that we don't often see in the industry, and especially as a business partner, is sometimes when you get it wrong, people just move on. But I remember when we got together, we weren't doing business with each other at the time, but you were telling us all the things that you want, essentially, and all the things you didn't want. And I really appreciated the time that you gave me for that. And that integrity and confidence, as I said, stuck with me. So when we're looking for people to introduce on the podcast of the Trusted Agent, well, I trusted you to be honest with me, and that's why you're one of our guests today.
Well, thank you, Sean. It's great to hear I had a positive impact.
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic fella. I try to find a silver lining when I'm here. So you've with your recent take on the sales manager of Dixon. Now, how long have you been in that position?
Must be 3 years now. It seems to have flown by, although the last couple of COVID years have been challenging. It has seemed slow at times. So a few years, Sean.
Yeah, I say recent because 3 years out of 19 is still fairly relative. Geez, how was that COVID must have presented a few challenges in itself?
Yeah, I mean, it has a massive impact on business, on individuals, on team culture. It tests your systems, it tests your resolve, your energy levels. Our business went through a lot. At the beginning, I remember at the beginning of COVID, just wondering whether in 6 months' time, whether I'd have a house, because when you own one of these things, everything's on the line. And if business went bad, my house is held as security, and so it was a really testing time it really pushed me. And we got through one set of lockdowns, and then, as you know, ACT more recently faced another set of lockdowns. By then, though, we'd become pretty, I guess, adept at dealing with it and used to the situation, so I didn't have the stress levels of the first go around.
It's amazing what we can get used to and adapt to quickly, isn't it?
It is, and I can't complain. I mean, compared to areas of Sydney and the Victorian lockdown situation, we had it pretty easy, really.
Yeah,
I feel for those guys, those business owners, for sure.
Yeah, I think being empathetic to other people's plight is, really, really helpful to understand where you sit and everything as well. When you became sales director of LJ Hooker Dixon, it had been a while since you'd done any sales before.
Yeah, so it had. I hadn't sold for quite a few years, and the opportunity came up. There was a need, I guess, to have someone in that role, someone new, and I guess I was definitely ready for change at that point. I thrive on new and change and on growth, and so I grabbed it. I couldn't say no. I was needed.
As someone who's managed many sales teams over my career as well, I know that every single sales team is different, and you can't. Although you might have a playbook or you might have a framework that you'd like to put in place. I just had a bus go by, so I'm going to do it.
No trouble.
Okay. So as someone who's managed sales teams many times over the years as well, I know that when it comes to teams transformation, every team's different. You might have a framework, a set of guides or rules that you'd like to use in one team to the next, but because we're all humans and uniquely different, you can't. It's not a cookie cutter approach. What were some of the areas that you were looking to bring a fresh perspective or improve when you came in to lead the sales team?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, the first thing I wanted to do was to get to know my team members. Every team is different. Well, every individual within that team is different and unique. And so I set about wanting to get to know them, and with the intention of genuinely helping them. What I guess the biggest need I saw in front of me really was around culture. I think there was a gap there that needed some help, some adjustment, and so we started working on that. And the first start of that was getting to know the individuals within the team.
Yeah, and I guess that would have been quite a complex situation for you, because you would have been going into a sales team where you yourself hadn't sold for many years, coming in as their manager. So I guess the credibility or the trust of the buy-in, was that a hurdle for you, or did you have enough runs on boards because you were with the brand for so long?
Yeah, I mean, these guys know me, and I guess I had credibility because I'd been around for a while. I had headed up our property management division for quite some time and made that a pretty successful thing, and built a strong team there, and worked well one-on-one with those people and as a team, and worked to build systems that made it all highly functional. And so, yeah, runs on the board, I guess. So they knew me. I wasn't brand new to them.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think they appreciated was that the fact that I wasn't selling meant that I wasn't in competition with them. There was no sense of, well, I'm in this for me, and there was no chance of me grabbing leads for myself and taking those myself. It was really, I can dedicate all my time to working with them and helping them grow themselves and their business.
That's a really interesting distinction because we sometimes see that across the industry, don't we? Where either sales manager or lead agent, and where whether they not they intend to consciously do it, sometimes there's even a perception that it's happening
Yeah,
amongst the team, and that can cause divide.
and I'm not saying that you can't successfully do both. I know plenty of people who do. However, I think for my team, it was a bonus for them. It was something that that they really appreciated, was having somebody who's one of their sole tasks was to work with the salespeople individually, and there was never any sense of competition.
Mm. So, what if, okay, so for those of our listeners that might be finding themselves in a similar position where they've just been given a new opportunity to head up a cell or a unit and or take on a whole sales team, what do you think were the first couple things that you did that gave you the biggest return on investment? You mentioned getting to know your team. How did you
Yeah.
do that?
So it was basically through time spent individually, one on one, in
One-on-ones?
conversation, and so I just set appointments. I set appointments to meet with my guys one on one weekly. We got to the point where we did actually cut that back. I now see them fortnightly, but it became a regular, ongoing, standing appointment with each of them every week to talk about them and their business, and also to talk to them about what my business can do to help their business.
Okay, so how your business can help their business.
Yeah, so I mean, LJ Hooker Dixon, the business, provides a framework for each of my guys within the team to build and run their own business within the business.
Oh, cool. All right.
And so obviously, I'm helping them uh, to excel, to do more and to do better in their own sales business.
So at the Trusted Agent podcast, we tend to talk about the things that help agents build greater credibility, efficiencies, and connection with others. And I know you're a process-driven guy. When I first met you, you outlined exactly what you wanted: automation and a process from one-to-one. But it sounds to me like in this particular circumstances, you really focused on the connection first. And then that in turn helped you with the credibility, even though you had your past experiences that you could leverage off of, and they got to know, they knew your history, not just on your resume. They got to see it firsthand. So those two really played in well for you, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the next step from there was to have regular meetings as a team also. And whatever I said I would do, I had to actually do. When as a leader, trying to set a culture and trying to build a team, when you say you're going to do something, you've got to demonstrate your credibility by actually making it happen. Don't make promises that you're not going to keep.
Yeah, no, it is important. And I'm human, and I know that there have been certainly times as a sales leader where despite best intentions, I haven't quite hit the mark of where I wanted it to be. I can sometimes, I don't want to say overpromise, underdeliver, because I eventually get there. But
yeah,
I think in terms of trust and credibility, it's really important to make sure you are backing up what you say. Did you ever find yourself where, like, it's a business operation and business group you're a part of? Did you find yourself, how did you manage the time pressures that you inevitably faced in trying to be there for your team and lead from the front and still operate this business?
I mean, you got to set out your week. You've got to plan your week. You've got to put the major rocks in place first, and that's by setting appointments. So that weekly one-on-one catch up with each team member was, I kept those appointments religiously. They're absolutely crucial. And then the team meeting. The team meeting is a non-negotiable for me. And for my business partner and for all our team members. So, everyone is in here for a Tuesday team meeting, 8:30 every week without fail. We don't book any appointments. Nothing gets in the way. And we discuss the things that matter to the business and to each individual person within that business.
Have you ever had thank you. I was going to ask you, getting everyone together and herding cats sometimes can be a very big challenge.
Yeah.
But having that regular cadence of Tuesday, 8:30, no exceptions, I could see how that would work. Have you ever had a team meeting where it's just blown up and it hasn't exactly gone the way that you had it, maybe early in the beginning, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if where an individual's not happy with something, the discussion can get intense, but that's fine. I mean, that's good for the business. So, there's usually a learning there that the business can benefit from, and it's better to have the discussion out in the open. And yeah, in the early days, there were more of those. Certainly, far more often than there are today, for sure.
Yeah, I think nipping in the butt early, or I guess fleshing it all out, is probably a better way of putting it. Having those discussions early and open is another way of building that trust and credibility, as well as that you are here to listen and you're not just trying to get people one-on-one and then build up the team meeting and then dropping the hammer. It's my way or the highway. It sounds like you've always done this. And by the way, for as long as I've known you, 5.5 years, your team has always backed you, and you have built really strong teams around you. So yeah. I guess that is really good, helpful advice for someone stepping into team management, is allow people to feel that they can be heard and that it's safe to speak up.
It's a consultative approach, and so as a leader, trying to bring the best out of people, I need to bring them along on the journey with me. I need to listen to them, be consultative, take their opinion on things. I also have to make it clear that I can't do what everyone wants me to do all the time. At the end of the day, there's a decision that has to be made. But that's got to rest with me, because, as I said before, it's my house on the line. But we listen, we weigh things up, we get ideas from people, and then we'll set a direction and commit to doing something. And then when I say I'm going to do something, I've got to follow through on that. I've got to make it happen. Otherwise, that damages my credibility. The other thing that I'm mindful of around credibility is I don't share everything that's in my head. There's so much that I want to do. There's so much that I want to develop within this business for my people. But unless I'm sure it's going to come off, I don't talk about it yet. If you're constantly raising things that never happen, I think that has a negative impact on your credibility.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, well, that's an interesting point of view, because I think some people feel like they need to be so open and transparent all the time to be trustworthy. But I could see how, if you're verbalizing everything and nothing seems to come off, then it actually would impact people's faith in your ability to deliver.
Yeah, I'd rather hold back a little bit of my dream or vision than talk about absolutely everything that's in my head and only deliver on 10% of it. So, I'll have a few people close around me that I'll talk about what I want to achieve and what I hope to achieve. But I don't broadcast it far and wide until I'm pretty confident it's locked in and we're gonna actually implement it and do it.
You mentioned before that you can't please everyone all of the time. And is there a particular way that you handle the difficult conversations or the crucial conversations that need to be had when you know there's going to be a disappointed party? How do you best approach that?
You have to be direct. You've got to be open and honest. whilst also, I guess, being reasonably gentle. I, I will be very direct with people, as you know, but I'll try not to be harsh. They're particularly with my team, they're my family, and, and I like them and respect them. I'll treat very, very honestly with them, but I'll do my very best to never be harsh. Just treat them like people in the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, you've never done it with malice, although I have felt like it's been blunt force trauma at times.
Yeah,
No.
well, I guess. Ouch.
No.
I guess you've dealt with me rather as a service provider,
Yeah,
not a team member, and so
true.
on the other side of the spectrum, when I'm talking to a service provider, I want the very best for my people and for my clients. And so our relationship was a little bit different from my relationship and with my team.
Yeah, and in fact, I don't know if it was that different, because I imagine you, for the team, want the best for them and them to grow. So anytime that you and I talked, as I said, it wasn't about malice. It was always with the opportunity to do better and be better. And that's how I've always taken it. It's just sometimes truth hurts, and that was on us, not less on you. But at least you're good enough to give it to us, so that was lovely. All right, let's shift gears a bit. All right, so you've done almost every role you could think of in real estate. You've gone through every level. You've taken on some, very unique challenges with different teams, and you understand that every team's different, so you can't take the same approach. But it sounds to me like connection and giving that time back and treating people like humans is really the key, first and foremost. And I'd say I have to insist that would be one of your strongest suits, because I've seen the teams that you've created over the past, and that ability for you guys to work together in unison has been lovely to watch. If you had to break down 5 points for someone who is going into, wanting to improve their leadership and culture, whether they're taking on a new team or just putting their hand up to recognize, look, my team needs a bit of a redirection or a refix here or a recalibration, what were the 5 things that you would say, this is what I would do, and you could cookie cutter those elements across any team?
Yeah. Well, first thing, I guess, is a leader has to work on themselves, and so obviously I want my business to be better, and I want to help my people to do better. And that, at the end of the day, that means I've got to be better. I've got to be growing as a person and as a leader all the time. And for me, that's meant putting myself in situations where I may not be comfortable, like saying yes to doing podcasts and speaking on panels and taking part in things arranged at a network level with LJ Hooker, and all those things that stretch us and grow us.
Yeah. So the podcast one I really appreciate. This is your first podcast, isn't it?
It is. It is.
You're doing so well too, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Really?
Thanks, mate.
All right. Number 2.
Number 2 would be to spend time, get to know the people, and it's hard to have influence without connection, and it's hard to connect with somebody without putting in the time and being genuinely interested. And often, what those appointments are about, when you book in that one-on-one time, sit down with that person. Often, what it's about is talking about life. Opening up your world to them and allowing them to open up their world to you as they feel comfortable, and then talking about business, and coaching them through how they can build their business and where they can focus their activity. So so I think it's building connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Investing that time to get that right. Because people aren't going to listen to someone else if they don't feel that they care about them,
Oh.
genuinely care. Or if they do, it's not sustainable. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Number 3, what is something else you would suggest?
So set a culture and values. I think that the two go hand in hand, and that culture, it's. I mean, everyone says this. They say they know it, but at the end of the day, is it being exhibited in your business? Well, um, that's something we all have to take a look at. And I had to take a look at: are we positive? Do we have a growth mindset? Do we encourage each other? Cheer each other on, and that's something that we've worked hard on here, is to develop this culture where people pat each other on the back. I want what's best for you, and vice versa, and uh, so we push each other to succeed, and then we celebrate successes together.
What are some of the things you guys do as a team to celebrate?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of fun activities over over the last few years. When we set a target and hit that target for the month, we'll go out and do either a lunch or an activity. And I try not to always make it a lunch. People think about real estate, they think about long lunches and drink sessions and whatnot, but we're not all about that. We, sure, go out for a nice lunch, but also do an activity. We've taken our guys axe throwing. Would you believe?
Axe throwing. Okay. Yeah.
Axe throwing.
Yeah.
We've done laser tag. We've done all sorts of fun stuff. I think the next one that we're looking at is paintball. It's team building, and it's a hell of a lot of fun, and it's a great way to celebrate each other's success. One of the last ones we did was escape rooms, where we split up into teams, and we all went in different escape rooms, and even that became competitive. It was about who got out first, and so we do those sort of things monthly, and then we also have an annual target. And our guys had a record year, which was pretty phenomenal, because that was on the back of another record year, So we said that if we hit our target this year, we'd take them away on a trip. So in February, we're throwing them all on a plane. We're taking them to Tassie. Going to put them up in a really nice hotel in Hobart, and be cruising up the river to the Mona there, the museum.
Oh, it's amazing. I've been there
phenomenal.
Twice.
Yeah, amazing piece of architecture, incredible art. It's out there. It's very, very cool. We'll be wining, dining, and enjoying the sights of Tassie, and then flying back. So it's like this all expense covered sort of trip away as a team to celebrate an amazing year.
And that's in February. I'll just put it in my diary now.
Yeah. Didn't you get the invitation, Sean?
I'm sure it's there. I'll have a look for it. Yeah, I'm sure it's there. I was down in Tasmania just before the first COVID, and it was amazing. I spent about 3 or 4 days in Hobart, and 2 of those days I was at Mona. I loved it so much the first time. I went back the next day. It's incredible. Oh, your team's going to love that, Lindsey.
Very cool. Yeah, they will.
That's so cool. All right, I'm going to stretch you 4 and 5. So what are some other things you might do?
4 is, for us, well, I guess it's setting a standard, right? So setting a level of ethics or morality, or whatever you want to call it. This is the way we operate. This is the way we do things around here. And I don't think we had a massive gap there by any means in that area. But it's something that you must state, and it's something that you must reiterate regularly. And that's why that's just talking about it constantly. Where you know, I guess the message is, at the end of the day, we are here for our client. We work for the vendor client. We work for the landlord, and we always want what's best for them. And we're always going to do what we say we're going to do and deliver for that client and work to get the very best result for them, whilst treating fairly with the buyer and the tenant. And so we want a good experience for all. And we have very open, honest conversation about the way we operate.
Within the team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't cross that line. We don't walk away from that. We aim to do the right thing by everybody all the time.
And that can be one of the hardest things, Lindsey, is setting those standards, especially when coming in for a new leader and changing the culture and the values. And I guess you can lean on the values when setting those standards. But did you have the team contribute to what success looks like and what those standards should be? Or did you find, no, I actually need to be the leader on this one and I need to set the benchmark?
My approach is consultative. I prefer consultative leadership, and there are times where you have to say, look, this is the decision, this is the way we're going. But when it comes to talking about culture, you want buy-in, and the best way to have buy-in is to get the team involved. And we actually, I think in my first year or first 6 months, we sat down for a goal setting meeting. We now do it every year. We sat down for
every year.
Every year, yep. But in that first one, we sat down and we talked about what our values are, and we came up with a set of words that had meaning to us, that would frame the way we operate. And so those words were put up in a sort of a graphical representation up on the wall in front of everybody on their boards to say, this is who we are. These words represent us. This is how we do business. This is how we operate. And you've got to write. You sort of got to set a vision. You've got to write it down. You've got to put it up in front of people to reinforce the message. And you've got to keep talking about it.
That's great. Number 5. Last one.
Number 5 would be, as a leader and as a business, to then provide support and systems for the guys to operate within. And so, real estate is a business where, I own and operate the Dixon business. Each of my sales team can sort of operate their own business within that business. But I've got to provide a framework within, which they can operate. And so we try to support them as much as possible. We provide the technology, processes, the support staff that help facilitate what the salesperson does, and to help ensure a really good customer experience and client experience for that vendor and that buyer.
When building your frameworks and systems, I've already mentioned numerous times in this episode that you've done a great work in building your teams. I'm wondering, through the journey, how much have you looked for external coaches or frameworks or professionals to come in and help you do that versus building yourself internally? Is there?
It's a blend. It's definitely both.
Okay.
I think, the people you hang around with sharpen you, they refine you, and they shape who you are. I mean, you and I, each of us we're made up of the people that we allow into our world. We're made up of the people we allow to speak into our world. And so I have intentionally hunted down mentors, and I've gone and visited the businesses of people that I look up to and respect. I look up to people who have done it well and done better than me and done more than me and been around longer than me. And I go and talk to them and visit them and see what I can learn from them.
I'd say that's number 6.
Sorry?
I'd say that's number 6 then, if you had.
Okay. Yeah. It probably is. And I still have a bunch of people that I've got lined up that I'm going to go and visit. I just never want to stop learning and growing and therefore growing this business.
That's great. Lindsey, if this is your first podcast, I doubt it. You've done such a wonderful job. Thank you so much for taking the time today and sharing your journey and your team's journey and some of those challenges that you faced together and how you've created this incredible business and year on year growth. I might bump into you in February down at Mona if I get the chance to get down there. I really do appreciate your time.
Sean, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for the invitation, and I hope this has added value for your listeners.
I'm sure it has. So for those listening, if ever you're in Canberra, and I know Lindsey's incredibly busy, but he's also very generous. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you dropped in the office and got to see his operation and meet some of his team there. Maybe I'm making promises that he can't catch, but I just know that I really enjoyed coming down and seeing your team every time I was down there. Thank you very much, Lindsey. Thanks to our sponsors, and we'll see you again soon. All the best.
Thank you.